Thank you, Edmund, for this very interesting presentation. Now, gentlemen, I will go on to some questions that I have prepared for you. Vasily, you are the first. So I understand or rather the question is, do we need a balanced development of solar and wind? In the NECP, there are certain trends that go towards one technology. What is your take on that? And what do you think about the bureaucracy and the binding timelines for investors on the one hand, and the lack of binding timelines and deadlines on the part of the state?
Very briefly, because these are major topics that you've been touching about. Indeed, I've been in the energy market for the past 20 years, and I am in favor of a balanced mixture. Now, what we see as a company, as a business, is that we are following a one-way street. I think that this will be to the detriment of the consumers. And now, reading about the prices, 18 megawatts from wind and 253 PV. So, reading at the priorities by IPTO last August, if we analyze that, we'll see that 80% of the grid will go to PV and 20% to wind. So, indeed, I'm worried. I heard the minister today. She talked about 2.5 gigawatts from wind and 7.5 from PV. I've read a lot of studies, etc., and there should be a balanced system. I think that we are going to pay a price for that. And the solution is not the offshore that we've been talking about, that we are going to introduce 2 gigawatts in offshore by 2030. We know as a business that it takes years for us to develop offshore. So if we talk about an national plan where we are going to say that it will take us years to balance it, we'll pay a price. Regarding your second question, we see that the state treats those who build projects in a very peculiar way. They are asking for letters of guarantee, binding offers, etc. But if the state does its own duty, it is not business of theirs. They're asking us to get licenses in 3 years' time. If, as investors, we do our duty and we do everything, and the state does not meet its obligations, then it's a one-sided approach. And the market, definitely there should be rules in place, but such rules should not be punishing those who do their job as they should. I mean, it reminds us of taxpayers who do pay taxes, and ultimately they see that there are exceptions and exemptions for those who haven't abided by the rules. That's it. Yes, I see. So you have thought of that in depth. So Takis, we move on to you. You've done a very good introduction, and maybe we can stick to what we had mentioned earlier regarding the investment destination. And we see here that we have, with the exception of Edmund, foreign companies that have invested for years in infrastructure and in human resources in Greece. So will we be able to keep things as they are vis-à-vis investment destination? Will we be able to maintain Greece as an attractive destination? And what do foreign companies, foreign businesses expect to find here? Whatever any company anywhere in the world is after: stability, predictability, and sustainable investments. It's quite simple. The thing is to see whether all this exists. Well, there is no clear answer to that. The big growth that Spiros was talking about, it's always the same way. We were down to the abyss, 5 years without PV, then exchange market, etc. Now we are in a situation where we are stuck. There were no bids, no offers, because there was no possibility for the operators to allow this, because they were waiting for a political decision. Then we had the political decision. Some people liked it, some others not. Things were not that stuck, but now we do have a framework. We have categories, priorities, investors who have already been given the conditions and are happy with that, and those who have hopes to get projects, to be allowed to proceed to projects. And they do hear in the news. They expect to be allowed to go on with the projects, and they need to maintain their own businesses. They have to be in accordance with the conditions of credit, etc. And they hear that things are going to change. Okay, that sounds quite funny. I do understand that we need to have interventions, but such interventions need to be done in a reasonable way. Such investors who have already invested their money will be bound to leave if things don't work the way they had planned, and they will share their stories with them. We're talking about a very small market, and they'll never come back to Greece. So what do we need? We need to have a very stable legal framework. Let us try to maintain what has been created in the past 2 to 3 years with specific priorities in such a way so as for those who are already into make progress and interventions aimed at a further penetration of RES in the system to be done in such a way so as for others not to be left behind. Another thing has to do with sustainable investments. What kind of sustainable investment is one to do? We'll launch a project now. Why? Because we want to sell it. So in our plans, we have some views, etc., and we wait to see what will happen in 5 years' time. Here we have 2 parts here. The risk that has to be undertaken by the investor. The investors are the ones who are going to go in the market. They know how to deal, how to have a bargain. They are going to be dealing with the financing part, the negotiations part. Yeah, there are some parts where they have to rely on the market. The laws, as we mentioned earlier, and the monster of bureaucracy, etc. Well, what are we to do even if we have had a project when we don't know how long our projects will be operating through time? We should know that. We should have this predictability. We should be able to follow the European norms, etc., the rates. This might be the case. But if you ask me now, what there is in the investors' public is that there is a vagueness as to what will happen with the curtailment. A few years ago, we had the financial crisis. People will come to Greece to get loans, etc., and the terms would be much worse than anywhere else in Europe. Now, where we have solved this issue, there is the issue of this vagueness. Okay, I'll come and have an investment in Greece. The government is pro-RES. They do have sun, etc. But what will I do if I don't know how long my project will be operating? So we need to provide comfort to investors to find a solution. They want a sustainable investment. To de-risk the project, they need to have a stable legal framework and no surprises. Excellent. I think that this comes to complement what Spiros was saying. He mentioned some important institutional issues that call for institutional interventions. If we are to maintain Greece as a suitable and interesting destination, what are the issues that are thorny, other than the ones that Takis mentioned? Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. There are three issues which I consider are at the focus of the market. Overheating, therefore the need to be able to manage the surplus offer, the penetration rates. In the past few years, this propagation of RES has brought in a tsunami of applications for minor or major projects trying to find space in the EPTOS and HEDNOS system. We have 11.5 gigawatt installed capacity, plus 3 from hydro. The terms for connection and those pending since a ministerial decision in August 2022 exceed 20 gigawatts. If on top of that we add 2 gigawatts for PVs and 2 gigawatts offshore wind, if we sum up, we see that we go beyond the objective by 2030 of 28 gigawatts installed capacity. Storage is crucial. Definitely, there have been steps vis-à-vis storage, but we are still following a very slow pace, and there is no time left. Following a tender on standalone cells and batteries, we need to approve the terms in order for the bidders who have been awarded to get on the move. Then we need to move on to the next stage of standalone, those that are examined in parallel with category B. Right now we need interconnected projects, not theoretical projects. So this pertains to storage. Moreover, we all know that hourly prices are close to zero or even negative. So this excess offer leads to curtailments. Takis referred to them regarding curtailments, be them technical because of the grid or because of the market when the generation exceeds demand. Now, for these curtailments, there is no compensation provided. Therefore, it is very difficult to make any guess vis-à-vis revenues or prepare a reliable business plan. Things have become really difficult. And another thing I'd like to touch upon is the excess supply. One element is the flexibility of demand. The main prerequisite is the digitization of the grid through the installation of smart metering technologies, and consumers will be able to make good use of these low prices of power, using algorithms, technology, etc., whenever they want it, charging their electric vehicles, etc. However, this on its own, this shift of energy consumption on its own is not enough. Electrification may definitely help and increase demand. So through this increase of demand, we might find a margin to further incorporate RES. However, still we need the upgrade of the transport capacity of the grid. This upgrade in the short term, because infrastructure projects take time. So in the short term, this can be achieved if we utilize innovative grid technologies such as the grid booster that has been applied in other countries, taking the best of the existing system. Obviously, there's also the role of international connections, and obviously the connection of Greece with the big consumption hubs. This will help us become an energy exporter. The difficulty in all it lies in the fact that we have to do things in parallel, because so far we took it one step at a time. Now we need to operate in parallel. Yes, I'd like to thank Spiros for his comment. I think that this is a good opportunity for you, Spiros, to talk to us about the basic pillars. You've had 16 giga due diligence. You've seen almost all technical problems that might arise in projects. And on the basis of all this, please give us the main pillars of the technical due diligence, something that banks also take into consideration. And in parallel, please give us a view on the way you evaluate the connectivity of the projects. For instance, you get a portfolio and you need to check the scenarios. How do you do your evaluation under such uncertainty?
Let me begin from the end. Fortunately, I don't consider ourselves lucky, but capable. I think after following the ministerial decision from August 2022, all the due diligence that we've carried out with projects that do not have any interconnectivity, the scenario that was given by us, because obviously there is a scenario in the environmental terms. So that was that. Why we did that? What was given as a connection term, it was exactly what we'd given. And our job is such that we have an overview of so many different projects, so we know whether they received connection terms. We know what exactly happened to them from our previous experience. And if there is a congestion in a particular substation, because there might have been, we might have carried out the other projects of that particular substation, so therefore we can evaluate that scenario that is given to us, whether that can be implemented or not, or whether they have to go to another scenario. However, this exercise is getting more and more difficult. At the moment that MIE is struggling with its network and is struggling to give connection terms. So this exercise is going to get even harder, but we're still managing. Now with the due diligence, this is something that's required by the banks when we're LDA, which is it's a little bit more particular because it requires has a further requirements. Due diligence is also carried out by developers themselves when they want to sell it as a vendor technical due diligence, but also due diligence for buyers when somebody wants to buy a project, especially when it's somebody from another country where they need a technical consultant in Greece. But there are also cases where these are domestic investors who either due to their structure they do not have the right person in-house to carry out this work, so they need a third party to carry out the technical due diligence. So these are the three categories that come to us and ask for these 16 giga that we talked about earlier. So what this technical due diligence because it has different evaluation of different scenarios, a technical control, and if there are no different scenarios, we offer our own scenarios. These are all costed, all based at current prices without knowing when the project is going to receive connection terms and when it's going to be manufactured. So the costing is done given the current prices. Of course, an independent energy analysis of PV and wind, EEG review, SWOT analysis, and of course it also requires a good and juicy executive summary, because 99%, if not 100% of the people who are going to read your due diligence are only going to read the summary, and they're not going to go through these many pages. I believe that you're one of the investors who reads the whole report, and since you see things from an investment standpoint, and I just would like you to give us your views on what we need to do as investors in order to remain an investment destination. I'll just take over from what the previous speakers mentioned and say that one of the things that remains unknown is to what extent this attractive destination, that's Greece, relates to Greece being an attractive destination, or an oversupply of funds which is looking for alternative returns. Therefore, what I believe that we need to do is that if at some point, at a later stage, whether under different circumstances, we reduce this supply of funds, that we can keep some of the competitive advantages. I'd like to give as an example something that was not created as a mechanism, it was just created just because that's how things were. In the case of Romania, they used to, the regulator in Romania, they used to get all the investors in one room and discuss all the different issues in a particular sort of very structured way. I mentioned earlier that there are issues that they're interministerial issues, and a foreign investor will come to Greece and make an investment in Greece and then sell that investment on to somebody else, and but we're not like that. And if we want to strengthen the internal savings, and we need to have a more structured dialogue with the state. The state has shown over the last few years that reacts and much faster than it has done in previous decades, and I think this with intra-ministerial committees that can have a more structured dialogue with investors, I think they can just give us very good results. Yes, and I must agree with you that that's something that was also mentioned yesterday in the panel, that the market itself and we as entrepreneurs, we must actively partake in public dialogue and the legislation that comes in the public dialogue. I'd like to use the last 5 minutes and give the opportunity to the audience to ask questions, if there are any. I'd like a question and not a statement, please. So if there are any questions, then no. So there are no questions from the audience. My name is Terios Logothetidis. I would like to ask Mr. Aradjis. what is your opinion on what kind of investments are you making in Greece? I think you just gave a kind of more general description. It's very difficult in this kind of context to explain exactly what we're doing. I think we can be more specific at that. But I think there are certain things that give value, or others that, due to oversupply or over demand, that don't offer any value. Therefore, we have 4 different sectors: renewables, energy saving, natural gas, and technologies, in this particular order of importance. And we try to make investments which, if you like, at the end of the day, they just offer value both to the place and also to our investors. And can I just ask 2 words from everyone so that we can move to our lunch break? Just very briefly. I might have sounded a little bit negative earlier, but as a company, I'd like to say that we are adapting to the new reality of the country. We're trying to convey our technical know-how as a British company, and also we fight every day to find solutions to this country. Only with smart solutions can move forward. I'm very surprised how we've managed to have all these projects in the country with all these projects the problems that we're facing. I would say that that all countries have the same problems, and we shouldn't be whining. I think we've already got 11.5 gigawatts. We're going to have even more. We're all obviously trying to do this in such a way that it's easier for our companies. However, anyone who's in this area in the past 20 years, we've seen how hard things are. We know that in some kind of magic way, problems and hurdles are overcome. We can't keep everybody happy, but we can't assume now that renewables are dying because there's no network. All serious investors are looking from now on. They're looking at investment plans over in the next 10 years. Anyone who wants to do something in the next 1 or 2 years, of course, they don't have any future. Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think we need to look at the glass being half full. If all of us were here 6 years ago and we're setting that goal that we've achieved now, back then we would be celebrating and we just say, oh, we've achieved our goal. Therefore, it means that we're at a very good point. We need to work on all the aspects that have been mentioned in this 2-day forum in parallel. And of course, all these things require time, but they also require solutions. I'm just going to use the word parallel that that Mr. Papalabou just mentioned, and I'm just going to say that yes, in parallel, we have in Greece at the moment many gigas in Greece, but in parallel, we need to strengthen the network so that connection terms can be given to more gigawatts, and then see what we can do with the labor force, because this is what's missing now from the projects. There are no people to work in these projects, and this is what the government needs to do something about this. I'd like to say that the key word here is smart solutions, what you mentioned. And indeed, with smart solutions, I think we can move forward very fast. Compared to 3 years ago, we see a shift in the industry, which was very different 3 years ago. We used to press a button and get electricity. Now we just want to find a better way of saving energy. And we've now reached the oxymoron where the industry wants to reduce the tariff, and the network is occupied by energy communities, by so-called energy communities. I think you're just raising many questions right at the end. We don't have any more time, unfortunately. Thank you much for your attention. Big round of applause for our panel. And I think we're free now to move to our lunch break.